Now we're going to take a look at another useful feature of Windows 7, and that is desktop gadgets. So to access desktop gadgets, all we have to do is right-click on the screen somewhere away from icons or other objects. Then select Gadgets from this menu. So I'll click on Gadgets. The Gadgets dialog box opens up, as you can see, and if you're a Windows Vista user, you're probably already familiar with desktop gadgets. However, if you're a Windows XP user, these might be new to you. Here we have all of the usual suspects that we saw in Windows Vista, but now we have a new one, the Windows Media Center gadget. So to add gadgets to the desktop, all we have to do is double click on them. And I'll also double click on the Windows Media Center gadget so we can have a quick look at that. Now I'm going to close down this window. I'll click on the Media Center gadget and drag it out a little bit. So here we can listen to some music that we might have on our computer, or watch a slideshow, or we can listen to music while we're watching a slideshow. We can also click on the Windows Media Center link, and this will open up the Media Center so that we can watch some recorded television or something like that. So a really useful feature. Here we have the Headlines gadget. This time I'm going to click on the drag handle and drag it out a little bit. So we have a number of buttons in the top right hand corner. The top button allows us to close the gadget if we don't want to see it on the desktop anymore. We can also increase the size of the gadget, and this is a great new feature in Windows 7, something I thought was lacking in Windows Vista. If I click on this button, it just increases the size of the gadget, so things are a little bit easier to read. With this Headlines gadget, all I have to do is click on one of the headlines, and then the browser will open up and take me to that news story. We also have the Options button. So if I click on Options, in this particular case, we can go through and configure the feeds to display. By default this is set to all, but we can look at any of these other feeds if we like. Clicking on the Options button will show you options specific to that gadget. How many headlines would we like to see at a time, for example? And we also have the Drag gadget, or the drag handle, so we can move it around the screen a little bit. I'll remove this one. We can also sometimes click on a gadget and drag it rather than using the drag handle. However, it depends on the particular gadget. I'm going to increase the size of the CPU and memory monitor. So here we can see how hard the processor is working and how much memory we're using on our computer. So about 30% in this particular case. I'll also click and drag the weather gadget out a little bit. As you can see, by default, when we add the gadget to the desktop in Australia, Canberra is the default city that we see. If I increase the size of this gadget, now we can see not only today's weather, but weather for the next few days as well. So this is very useful. Now that I have a couple of gadgets on the screen, I'm going to come down and we're going to look at the Show Desktop button that I mentioned earlier on. I'm going to open up a few applications. So now we have applications open on the screen, as you can see. So now if I come back to the bottom right hand corner of the screen and just move the mouse over the Show Desktop button, as you can see, all of the applications become transparent. We can still see the outlines, but we can also see the gadgets underneath. So maybe if we want to see what the weather is, or how hard our computer's working, or maybe some headlines, we can do that very quickly and easily. If I move the mouse pointer away, all of the applications are now visible again. If I move the mouse pointer back over the Show Desktop button, they become transparent. If I click on this button, all of the applications are now minimized. If I click on it again, all of the applications are now restored. So this is another interesting and useful piece of functionality to be aware of, and that is the Show Desktop button. So that's a quick look at desktop gadgets as well as the Show Desktop button.